Welcome to HSDF the Podcast, a collection of policy discussions on government technology and Homeland Security brought to you by the Homeland Security and Defense Forum. In this second of a two-part series, Beth Cappello reflects on her career, acknowledging past shortcomings in managing peer relationships while highlighting their success in developing close relationships with subordinates and mentoring. Featuring Beth Cappello, former Deputy Chief Information Officer, Department of Homeland Security; Luke McCormack, former Chief Information Officer, Department of Homeland Security. This discussion took place at the HSDF's 4th Annual Women in Homeland Security Celebration on March 22, 2024.
So you bounced. I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I didn't realize we're and I want to make sure we have some time for question and answers. So you bounce back and forth, continuing to progress in responsibility, back and forth between ICE and CBP and headquarters, et cetera, et cetera. You make your way from the ICE deputy CIO and then get asked to come to headquarters. And as Tom Winkowski would say, I said at her former ceremony, become a headquarters puke, Tom used to always call me. What was that like, and was that a tough decision?
A miserable decision.
Sort of, what did you learn from all of that?
It's a miserable decision. I had the best job at ICE. I loved it. I was having a ball. But I mean, think about the circumstances. You know that the CIO position at the department is a political position. So it has a time limit on it, right? Even when administrations stay the same, that position changes. And I knew that I think he had already retired, or he had announced his retirement. The career Fed, which is the deputy CIO, had announced his retirement. The next one in line, who was running operations, had made it clear that he was retiring. And so I'm sitting down at ICE going, okay, so who's going to be running the place? And, I make jokes when I talk about John asking me to come up, and I said no, and he had talked me into it. But the reality is I did say no the first time because I didn't think it was the right move for me. But then, you take a moment and you look at what's going on. And then it's not about you anymore. It's not about you even a little bit. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll go to headquarters for, a hot minute, and then I'll go back to ICE or CBP or one of the components. I'll just go do my thing, cover it during the transition. This was my thinking, and I'm an idiot now looking back on it, but whatever. And when I got up to headquarters, I thought, all right, fine, I can get up there and I can fix a few things while I'm there. Mm-hmm. I'll fix that wide area network that's been driving me nuts. There's a couple other things I'd like to get put right. Right, because when you're sitting down in the component, headquarters is all screwed up. You just know it, and if you get up there, you get your hands in there, you can fix it.
But you also started pulling a lot of talent up there, right? And that's when you were reaching down into the various components, bringing them up to headquarters. You were doing a lot of mentoring, really focusing on elevating the women in the organization and making sure that there was a good, healthy balance there.
Yes.
And I think you can describe it. I don't want to...
Look, I mentioned that the circumstances today in terms of numbers are not any better than they were in 1992 or 1991.
Why is that? You had to put your finger on it.
I think that there are not enough young women who know about the various missions at DHS, who know how they can serve. We appeal to veterans. I say we. DHS really appeals to veterans. I had no trouble recruiting veterans to come to DHS, any part of DHS, whether I was at ICE or CBP, didn't matter. I think the challenge is getting our messaging out there about the importance of the DHS mission to a community that maybe doesn't understand as much about DHS. I mean, look, if we look at the news and that's all you hear and know about DHS, it doesn't sound like a particularly pleasant place to work. And look, some days it's not. But what we don't talk enough about is how amazing it is to be part of a community serving something greater than yourself. And I think the other part is, the challenge with attracting particularly women in technology fields is there are a lot of other opportunities out there, and there's a lot of other hardcore recruiting that's going on. Cyber talent, there's a lot of competition. CX talent, there's a lot of competition. I think we need to do a better job in DHS of really highlighting the fabulous missions and people that we work with, that we support, that we serve. There's so much goodness there.
Let's take some questions. Let's get one in the back there. Yeah. Okay.
So, Beth, you've had such a fantastic career, going 100 miles an hour. Going 100 miles an hour every day to about, 10 miles an hour a day? What do you do?
Oh, you mean right now?
Yeah. What do you do?
Oh, no. I'm selling a house, moving to another state, getting one out of college, got another. I'm still going 100 miles an hour. I'll make stuff up if I don't have any.
Somebody in the back there.
Hi, Katie Lindy, headquarters. Given the vast experiences that you've had and the opportunities that you've had at DHS, what has been the most professionally challenging part that you've had in all of this? Has it been a specific problem set? Has it been a kind of, coworker that you've dealt with? And how have you maneuvered through that? Because going between the field and headquarters, there's a lot that you deal with right there.
I can't wait to hear this answer.
I think you're going to be surprised. I'm my biggest problem because I do go at not 100 miles an hour. I go about 200 miles an hour. And I have absolutely no patience. I had hoped that having children would help me develop patience, and it did for a minute, but then I reverted back to my natural state, which is somebody described it this way one time. There was somebody that I used to work with who asked another coworker why I didn't like him. And the other coworker said, it's not that she doesn't like you. That's not it. You're either with her serving the mission, like helping get where, or you're in the way. And the place you don't want to be is in the way, because I just don't do well at slowing down enough to figure out how to get people out of my way nicely. And so I haven't, and I don't, it's a little funny, but it's not, because I can be brutal, and I have left some real pain in my own wake. And you can make the excuse that it's in service to the mission, and which, by the way, I've been telling myself for 4 decades. But the reality is, as you progress, the most important thing in your career, the single most important thing, are the people and the relationships. And I've done a really good job at developing close relationships with subordinates and developing people. And I have a whole cadre of people who and I'm just not bragging, it just is what it is, that would literally follow me anywhere. If I called them and said, I need you to come to this job and do this, even though it has nothing to do with what you've ever done before, I know of several dozen that I could call on who would answer that. The problem is the peer relationships and managing up. I have always been terrible at managing up. My peer relationships are great if I think you're on the same team that I'm on. So in saying all of that, if I've learned anything, it would be take a breath every now and again.
Some good self-awareness there. Other questions?
It's a little late. It's all right.
Just saying that mightily because she's within striking distance here. I don't want to push my luck. Tom, I think you had a question.
Yeah, just a quick one.
Let's get the microphone, Tom. And I know there's other questions. You got a powerhouse here. Please ask her questions.
Beth, to the young person who's in the first 1 to 3 years in government, what would you advise them to do?
Listen, I think one of my strengths, even though it is, attached to a bulldozer, is listening to the operators, not not assuming that because you're the technical person that you have the answers to their problems. You need to understand you understand the problem first. Because no matter, and the other thing would be to talk to other people, because no matter how smart you are, no matter how technical you are or how talented you are, Albert Einstein +1 is still better. So that's my other pitch on the relationship piece.
Yeah, when you figure out the ultimate win is not being the smartest person in the room, that's when you're awesome. That's when you know you're in a good place. Yeah. Other questions for Beth? Well, maybe some folks are thinking about that. Let's talk about. Here we go. I want to let you give us 2 minutes on the future as well. Fast forward. We have a question over here. The lady in the glasses. Be bold. Ask the questions.
Hello. I know I'm short, so I should stand up.
It's all right.
When you were pulling people...
Microphone up to them. There you go.
When you were pulling people up from the components that you saw as leaders, what were characteristics that you were looking in? So for people that are 5-8 years out of, college and kind of like going from being that person on the ground doing the work to now leading other people, what's kind of that piece that I guess you think is like the most transitional there?
Oh, I love that question, because this is something that comes up a lot when you're mentoring people. We've had people, at the GS, for those that are familiar with government, GS-15 level, who really will say they aspire to the senior executive service. I would say that make sure you're doing that with intention, that you want to lead people, because it's not about the title. It's not about the money. I mean, not if you're in the government. Because once you move into those higher level positions, you're taking on accountability and responsibility, and your big chunk of your job is other people. It's not a technology thing. It's not delivering a solution. It's getting other people to do that work in a way that's meaningful for them and in a way that helps them move forward in their career. So I would ask, if you think you want to be in a leadership position, make sure you want to be in a leadership position, because that's about people. And if you're not going into it with that mindset, you're probably not somebody I would want on my team. Because it's about the people, not your ego, not your title, not those things. So the thing that I'm looking for most in folks that I want to develop are people that genuinely care about other people, and will hold them accountable, because that's really important.
Other questions? Talk about the future.
Oh, we got one more back there.
Okay.
It was an almost. I want to ask a question.
Question. Come on, do it. Be bold.
So my question is, you said you took a couple of years break between your jobs as a mom, and I myself, I'm a mother, and I took about 3.5 years after graduate school to stay with my child. And it was very tough to get back into the workforce, because and I was in full-time graduate school, and no matter what I was doing, it was always, you're out of the workforce. So it doesn't show on your resume. So I feel like there's a disconnect between hiring women as skilled workers, and most of them drop out of the workplace because they're not given that opportunity. So I know you speak for yourself, but what is your experience with DHS and the hiring practices, so that women are encouraged to get back on the workforce once they leave their family? Because I actually did research on gender studies while I was in grad school, just so I can quantify and show that it really affects the workforce when moms are not allowed to get back on it. So that's my question. My first question.
Well, we need, we're not going to have enough time. And I say that when I was up at, I did my undergrad and graduate work at Johns Hopkins, and I was with a group of law enforcement professionals. We were in a cohort type program. And that topic came up as a research item for women in law enforcement. I would say the exact same thing applies for women in technology. Like the ability to take time out, a gap in your career, to be a mom, it makes it really difficult. I said, when I came back to work after 9/11, I was out for 3 years and it would have only been 2, but the security clearance part took forever. Because I was already a Fed and I had been a Fed, but I took 2 grade levels down and went to a non-supervisory position. So I had been a GS-14 supervisor, whatever, and then I went back in as a GS-12 non-sup LAN admin. I mean, I went from being basically like a branch chief to a basic LAN, IT support, direct IT support. That was my decision, and I wasn't there very long in that role. But you're absolutely right. I feel very lucky because I had people I could call on. I literally called somebody and said, "Hey, I want to come back to work," and it happened. That opportunity does not always exist, and let's be clear. So if you are a female or a male, I don't care, in a senior leadership position, keep your eyes open for those women who have made that personal decision to step out and be with their families at a critical time, right? Because as a society, we need that. We need moms and dads, not one or the other, but as a primary caregiver to get our kids right. I think it's critically important, and I think we're terrible at it. I'm looking at you, Lisa, on CTMS, because that's probably one of the greatest aspects of the cyber talent management system that DHS has, in that it does offer you the flexibility to go out and come back in and go out and come back in and go out and come back in. It's, that part of it's revolutionary in terms of federal government personnel system activities. We need to do better. We absolutely need to do better. Yes, Lisa Dorr, right back there. Yes, especially if you're in cybersecurity and you're looking for opportunities in the federal government, please go see Lisa. The program is amazing. It allows the managers in government to get really great talent. But for you as a person, in terms of flexibility, there's no other part of the personnel system in the federal government that's like CTMS. It's a step in the right direction, but it's not enough.
Let's fast forward, talk about the future, and we'll wrap it up with the future. Just paint a picture of what the future looks like to you, what you hope it will be, and then maybe tell us a little bit about your future.
If I could wave a magic wand, the issues around being able to step out and start a family and not feel like you've stepped off the career track, I'd fix that. If I could find more young people, not just women, but cognitive diversity across the board, diversity of all kinds makes us better. And so while I love my veteran colleagues, and I do with my whole heart, that can also lead you to a little bit of groupthink, because even though I'm female, I'm a veteran. When I get around other veterans, I think, talk, and act like a veteran, not necessarily leaning towards the more female side of things. And I think that if we can find ways to attract more people to public service, not just DHS, of course, that's where my heart is, but public service writ large, I think we're better as a society. Again, being in service is a two-way street, right? It helps you as a person, and I think it offers opportunities as well.
Beth, congratulations on a stellar career.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Beth.
Thank you for tuning in to HSDF the Podcast. You can follow this podcast on any major podcast platform. Visit hsdf.org to learn more about the Homeland Security and Defense Forum.